So, what are the benefits of fasting? What are the things that fasting can do? We've been talking about, hey, the metabolism, the diabetes, but is there more that fasting can do? There is a lot more, and we'll spend some time just outlining some of those. Hey, if you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new year, new you. I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to put their diabetes in remission, who want to reverse their diabetes. That's right. And that's what we're doing. We're using fasting as a method of doing that. And I want to make sure that you join us. I'm glad that you're here. If you're new to me, go ahead and put new in the comments because we'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music to let you know that we're glad that you're here. Also, if you have questions as we go throughout the show, go ahead and put those in the comments with a cue so that we'll get to those as we move through this space. Yeah. Glad that you're here. Whatever platform you're joining us from, whether that is Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, of course, here on YouTube, and also on Facebook. Make sure that we're glad that you are here, glad that you are hanging out with us. So you know how we do. I've got over here, I've got my monitors that we'll take a look at here in just a minute. And then right below that is my Dexcom Clarity Report, which we'll take a look at to see what's been going on with my blood sugars. And as we are moving into the show, remember today is our review. We're doing a deep dive into fasting. What does fasting do? How do we prepare for the fast? How do we get through the fast? And of course, how do we break the fast? Before we get there though, let's go ahead and let's take a look at some blood sugars. Well, first let's do our check-in. Yeah, that's right. Let's do our check-in before we get to blood sugars. And when I check-in is really kind of talking to myself, and this is what you should be doing. Anytime you are looking at changing something, improving something, you're tracking something, you want to maybe be sure that you're checking in how you are doing. Is it being successful? Are there things you need to change? Are there symptoms? Are there things that are going on that we may need to pivot because of? And so check in is just a way of monitoring, being mindful, that word's coming up again, being mindful in the things that we want to do or how our body's responding so that we can make changes if we need to. Okay, so we typically talk about how I'm doing physically, mentally, and emotionally. And before we do that, I want to just kind of give a little bit of backdrop. So here, the goal is reversing diabetes. We are working to get off of medication, to improve our blood sugars, improve our A1C, get our blood sugar down, and all those metabolic things that we talk about. Remember, diabetes is the prototypic metabolic disease. So if we can treat diabetes, if we have things that are working for diabetes that are successful, then we can extrapolate that to other places. So diabetes is what we're working on. But remember, there are so many other metabolic diseases that can that we talk about in terms of the chronic illness: high blood pressure, high cholesterol, fatty liver, polycystic ovarian syndrome. All of those are disease processes that get better with treatment for metabolism. Okay? And we've learned several tools for the management of metabolism. We've learned several rules in this space, and one of the most powerful tools that we're using is this idea of fasting. Fasting hits all of the pillars for reversing diabetes: decreasing insulin, suppressing appetite, and reducing sugar. So if we can use fasting effectively, then we are setting ourselves up for success in the metabolic space, right? So that's kind of the backdrop. And so as we're going through this process of using fasting, how do we fast successfully? And that's what we've been doing here, talking about the fasting. How do we fast? How do we be successful? What are some other ideas, some other things that we need to think about as we're fasting? And that's where you find us now. And I am going to do a check-in. So I am right now let's see, how many hours? Ba, 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 ba. So 25, 26, 27, 28, about 29 hours. Oh, let me make sure I got that right. One, two. So 28 hours actually, 28 hours into my fast. And so let's talk about how I'm doing physically. So physically, I am tired. Okay, I actually am up late. If you saw our show, our check-in that we did yesterday, then you know what's been going on. We've got some things that are going on, some planning that we're doing, and so yeah, I'm tired, and so I can feel that on top of the transition that may be going on in terms of, well, I shouldn't say transition by this point because we fully transitioned. Um, that is happening in terms of switching from burning sugar or carbs, to burning fat. So I am tired, so I need to get some rest. So as soon as I get through here, that's what I'm going to be doing, getting in bed. Mentally, I'm actually feeling clear. Um, Earlier today, I was feeling. I could tell that I was a little delayed in my responses, but right now I'm feeling pretty good. I've got a little burst of energy. Took a shower, and yeah, and feeling pumped. Which brings me to the emotional part because there's some things that we're doing here as a family coming up starting tomorrow, and so that has me excited. Okay, so physically, mentally, and emotionally, and you're always wanting to check in with yourself because that's how we know how things are going. Be mindful, understand how your body works and how your body is responding to various things. Okay, and then let's hop over and let's take a look at blood sugars. And you see there, this is my Freestyle Libre 3. You see my blood sugar is 86. And you'll see that little squiggly white line that goes across the screen there horizontally. And that's what my blood sugar has been doing over the last at least 12 hours. Yeah, that's 12 hours. If you look down below, you'll see those dashed lines, and below you see 14. That just tells you how long this sensor is going to last. And actually change this sensor with the Dexcom um, a day or so ago because they both went out. And let me hop over and let me change and take a look at what my Dexcom is saying. So right now Dexcom is saying 96. And if I run my finger over it, you'll see that we dipped below 100 there. And earlier in the day, we were in the 1 teens to 120s. Yeah, there we go. Okay. If I change that to 24 hours, then you can see some of those higher numbers. Um, Last night when I ate, or 2 nights ago when I ate, I remember I was on the show. I was fasting. I'd been fasting 24 hours, I think 24, 25 hours. So I broke the fast after that, and then am now into my 72-hour fast. Okay, and so right here, what you're seeing, these higher numbers are a consequence of food that I ate as I broke the fast over here somewhere. All right. Okay, so that's what those are saying. So now let's take a look at what my monitor is. So I've got a Keto Mojo, I've got a Contour, and let's go ahead and get some strips into those. As you know, the Contour only gives me blood sugar, but the Keto Mojo will give me blood sugar and ketones. Go ahead and get that in. And so I've got both my strips for the Keto Mojo. Let's go ahead and get this. And I'll start with the glucose strip, but I'll open both because I want to be ready. And then let's grab a Lancet. Let's just see. I've taken a shining to these. These are just very simple. Put that over here. These are very simple ones. Basically, you screw off the top. And once you do that, you'll see there's, you may be able to see that there's a little needle at the top. And usually this goes into a lancing device. I don't tend to use lancing devices. I just get one, grab my finger, and ow. All right, so think that, and that hurts, by the way. All right, so let's go ahead and get the keto mojo started. And so, what do you think my ketones are going to be? All right, so right now we're doing blood sugars, but what do you think my ketones are going to be? So 99 was the blood sugar there on the keto mojo, and then 96 on the contour, and then of course on the screen you'll see my right there, that way. You'll see that's what the Dexcom says. So let's get this strip out. Let's get the ketone strip in. And then get our drop of blood to get that going. Okay, and as I always do, I'm going to tease you guys. I'm going to let that run for a couple of seconds. And then, of course, I'm going to hop over here so you don't get to see that. I know. Why do I do that? Why do I do that? Okay, so we'll come back to take a look at that here in just a minute. But what we're doing is we're doing our fasting review. And so you kind of heard the backdrop on fasting, why we're fasting, because we're reversing diabetes. But to remind us of some of the benefits that we get from fasting. Remember, it's not just the reversing diabetes, but fasting will improve insulin sensitivity. So we've talked about that, and that falls right into the insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. Remember, we mentioned that we're talking to adults with type 2 diabetes. With type 1s, a whole nother conversation. Some of the same benefits are there, but right now we're talking specifically about type 2 diabetics. So improves insulin sensitivity, because if we're fasting, the load that we are putting in, that is the food that we're putting in, is not as much. So the insulin that we have has less to work on, and so the insulin becomes more sensitive, right? Enhanced fat loss. So remember, insulin is a switch. When insulin comes out, insulin says to store. So as soon as insulin comes out, we're putting on weight. So when we're fasting, we're actually decreasing the insulin. We're making it more insulin sensitive, and so weight goes down, fat goes down. Increased growth hormone, human growth hormone. That's a big one, particularly for people who are into bodybuilding and working out. You've probably heard of the fasting workout, where people are fasting and actually doing workouts with that. And one of the benefits of fasting is that we boost growth hormone. As a matter of fact, growth hormone is one of the ways that we help to preserve muscle mass during fasting. Next, cellular repair and autophagy. And this is a fascinating process, right? The body's recycling system, where it goes out and collects dead, damaged, unused cells, and it's using that to create new, more efficient, better functioning parts of itself. Okay, so autophagy reduces inflammation. This goes to immunity. So when we're fasting, autophagy also goes out and it collects these damaged cells, inflammatory markers that may be out there, inflammation that may be in the system. So as we're fasting, that is improving as well. And then, of course, improve mental clarity. We did a show where we talked about how fasting does that. So several mechanisms that we went through where fasting is enhancing those. Fasting is producing certain ketones. If you have not done so, go back and watch that episode. And then enhances longevity. Now, last time we did our show, or the check-in that we did right before this one, we talked about the mitochondria. Right, so that's a big word. That's a big part of this longevity. So fasting enhances that as well. Another one that you need to go back and look at. Fasting boosted immune system functions, and just like we talked about as we discussed with inflammation, that we're getting better results because of the fasting. Heart health benefits. This is a good one, because fasting, let's back up. So fasting improves insulin resistance. Remember, hyperinsulinemia is a is a precursor to high blood pressure, high cholesterol, metabolic syndrome, hardening of the arteries, which all of that then leads to heart disease. So if we're improving the insulin, the sensitivity, then we don't have those downstream effects. And then digestive health is reset. So when we fast, we're not putting anything in. And by virtue of that, the body gets to rest, the stomach gets to rest. Those brush borders that are there aren't worried about absorbing things, and so we get rest, and that improves the gut biome, the microflora that's in the gut. So those are some of the benefits, but I wanted to review those because it's very important for us to kind of step back every now and then and say, okay, what is the big picture? We are reversing diabetes, but look at all these other things that we also can get benefit in. All right, and so now let's go and let's talk about fasting and how it works, how to prepare for it, how do we go through it, and how do we break the fast. And when I talk about fasting, I usually divide it into three different categories and or phases: preparing for the fast, getting through the fast itself, the actual fast, and then of course breaking the fast. So we're going to start by hopping over. We're going to talk about how do we prepare for the fast. So preparing for the fast. So why is preparation key? Very important question. Preparation is key because it prepares the body. It particularly when we're doing extended fast, and it reduces the shock, that initial change, or this is what we're going to be doing. If we're not careful, then we can have we can set ourselves up to not be as successful. Let me put it that way. And so for fasting, right, we want to prepare. We don't just want to show up and okay, I'm fasting today. Right? We want to prepare for that because it sets us up for better success. When we're preparing, it minimizes side effects like fatigue, headaches, and irritability. So when we don't prepare, then we are not setting ourselves up. We're not taking in the right nutrients. We're not eating nutrient-dense foods. We're not hydrating. We're not getting good rest. And all of that sets us up downstream to have difficulty because we're not doing a good job of preparing. Okay? And then when we prepare, it helps maintain focus on the purpose and the goal. So when you're preparing, you're not just preparing physically, you're preparing mentally and emotionally. Because fasting is not just a physical thing, it is mental and emotional. And so when we're preparing, when we're getting into the process, we are knowing it's coming and what are we going to do? We're getting into rest and we're doing all the mindfulness things that we need to do to be able to get there. All of a sudden, we have fasting that has been successful. And then mental preparation, right? So we just walked through some of this. So mental preparation, you want to set clear goals. Understand why you're fasting. If you don't understand why you're fasting, when difficult times come up, and they will, when you have some challenges, then it's easier to just kind of give up and say, okay, fasting doesn't work. But preparing mentally is, okay, what are my goals? You go back and you revisit your why. Say, okay, I'm doing this because, right? We did a show where we talked about coming up with your why. So all of those are tools, by the way, right, that I want you to be using, implementing. Visualize success. So see yourself being successful in the fast. Sometimes people will say, I get 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours, and I just can't do it anymore. I don't think I can do this. But I want you to begin getting into the habit of visualizing so that you see that, yeah, this is something I can do. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like when I'm able to walk across that finish line? It's like I fasted for whatever the period of time is that you're doing. Educate yourself on the fasting method, right? So whatever method you're going to choose, 16-8, 24, one meal a day, alternate day, 5 and 2, whatever it is, 72 hours. Educate yourself on what should happen. How do you get into it? How do you maintain momentum? How do you guarantee or set yourself up for success? Right? Research, and then affirmations. Affirmations are so important because they build you up. They say, I am fasting. I am working on my metabolic health. I am improving my blood pressure. I am improving my blood sugar. So, affirmations, right? Go ahead, get in there, create some that are specific to you. Put them on the wall, put them on the mirror so that you're seeing them around you, so that your brain begins to pick up on that story and you're more likely to be successful in that case. Nutritional preparation. Not just preparing the mind, but hey, how do we set ourselves up for success in terms of nutrients? Now we're talking about your eating window. So often during the eating window, people do a poor job of getting in the nutrients that they need so that when they now get into the fasting time, the fasting period, they have difficulty, not because there's something wrong with fasting, but they didn't come into the fast with the appropriate nutrition. Okay? So reduce carbs also and sugar. So if you are eating high carbs, high processed, up until you start fasting, you're coming into fast and the insulin is elevated. And remember, insulin is a switch. Insulin stimulates appetite and insulin makes you hungry. So if you come into it with higher insulin levels, then you're going to have a difficult time as soon as you get into the fast because the insulin is going to be taking a toll. Increase healthy fats. Once again, these are things that will help to satiate you, keep you fuller longer. So if you come into it because you've been eating a well-balanced meal with good fats, then when you get into the fasting, it is actually simpler because your body has everything that it needs. Increase water and electrolytes. Very, very important. I've talked about my struggle sometimes with drinking water. When we don't eat, we tend not to think about drinking. And so we want to be intentional about getting in the fluid because there so many things in the body that needs liquid, that needs fluid in order to function. And then gradually reduce your eating window. So what does that mean? That means that if you're going to be doing a 24, 36, 48-hour fast, then on your non-fasting days, what you're doing is you're working to compress the eating window so that the fasting window gets larger. So if you normally do a 12 and 12, that's 12 hours of fasting, 12 hours eating, then compress that to 16 and 8. So now you do 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating. And then you compress that even further. So you do a 18 and 18 and 4. I have to think about that for a minute. Is it 18 and 4? No, 18 and 6, right? 16 and 8, 18 and 6. Had to do that math. Okay. And so you're gradually reducing your eating window until you get to the point where you're eating or you're fasting, right? So not eating at that point. And then hydration and electrolytes. I can't say enough about this. Drink plenty of water before the fast begins. Before the fast begins, as you set yourself up for success, if you come into the fast and you're already dehydrated, you're going to get more dehydrated, and that sets you up for not having a good experience. And then ensure adequate intakes of electrolytes. You may have to use some electrolyte supplements in order to do that. That's fine. Okay, I have some over here somewhere that I don't use a lot of them, but I have them if I need them. And then you could drink herbal teas, green tea, chamomile, peppermint for hydration, and that also helps to relax you. Okay. And then physical preparation. Physical preparation. Engage in light physical activities like walking or yoga. Right, things that keep you moving, keep you lubricated, but aren't doing a lot of activity to cause a lot of stress. These activities actually will help reduce stress, which is so beneficial as we move into the fasting space. And then A for quality sleep. You want to get at least 7 hours of sleep as you are. We should get that anyway, but particularly if you're fasting, you want to make sure that you're getting adequate sleep. And then begin reducing your caffeine or energy drinks because those will stimulate you during the fasting process, and they can cause withdrawal symptoms when you don't have them. And you don't want to do that right up onto the fasting time. You want to try to stop those before so that by the fasting time, they're kind of out of your system. Okay. And then your environment. Sometimes we don't succeed because our environment conspires against us. So there are things that we have that we have in place. There's food that's here. There are snacks that are here. Um, People say to me, "Oh, I have that just in case I need to snack." Well, why do you need to snack? We don't need to snack. If we've done a good job of eating nutrient dense foods when we get into the fast, not an issue. And then prior to the fast, we don't need to snack. Right, so we're doing a good job. Create a fasting friendly zone. Keep your kitchen stocked with healthy teas, waters, and fasting supportive drinks. Right, so you got to anticipate that. If you wait until you're fasting and something shows up where you need something, you don't have it, you're going to end up breaking the fast, and right, and that's not what we want. And then prepare distractions. Plan reading, walking, meditation. This will help distract you from hunger, from that appetite being stimulated. Okay, so we want to make sure that you have things that you're going to do. And then emotionally and socially, right? Let people around you know that, hey, I'm going to be fasting, so that they're not pulling at you to do things that break your fast, or they're not planning functions that are around that time because you're fasting. So inform the people around you. I mean, don't make it obnoxious. Well, I can't do that because I'm fasting, but talk, right? Talk to people and say, hey, this is what's going on, and then come up with a plan. And then create accountability. So join support groups like our community that we have, New Year, New You, right? Our Dwain Woode MD community. Beautiful, because we get to encourage each other. We get to see each other in our successes, and we get to support each other when we're having challenges. All right, make sure you're doing that. There we go. I think I changed something. Let's fix that. Okay, there we go. So create accountability. All right. So why preparation is key, right? So how do we do this? How do we prepare? Get lots of rest, stay hydrated, reduce stress, and eat nutrient-dense meals. That's how we prepare for the fast. Remember, preparation is just as important as getting through the fast, which is just as important as how we break the fast. So let's go ahead and let's talk about the fast itself. So when we talk about fast, I tend to do 24-hour blocks. So 24, 48, 72. And that's great. But here we're going to take it a little slowly, a little bit more finely, and talk about how things happen on a shorter, in shorter blocks. So the immediate time after we've eaten, this is called the postprandial phase. And this usually is about 6 hours, 0 to 6 hours. And in this phase, the body is absorbing, the body is breaking down, the body's pulling into cells the nutrients from the foods that you just ate. So the insulin levels are high because the sugar level is high because you ate carbs. There were carbs there. Energy levels are high because there's ready access to the carbohydrates that come from that food. But soon that's going to start to wane. But in the initial phases, then we have high energy as the body is processing all of that information. Okay? And then the 6 to 12 hours, the early fasting stage. So insulin levels are starting to go down. Glucagon levels are starting to increase. This tells the liver, hey, I need to bring some of the stuff out that I've been storing. Remember, insulin and glucagon can't be in the same space. Right? So when insulin goes up, glucagon goes down, and vice versa. So in this early fasting stage, glycogenolysis is happening. So we're breaking down glycogen from the liver and converting that into sugar, glucose, so the body can use it. Remember, during the eating process, when we're absorbing that 0 to 6 hours, what we're doing is we're taking those nutrients and we're actually storing them somewhere. And now that we're not eating and it's past that 6 hours, the body's giving that back to us. In order to do that, it has to go break it up, the ones that store in the liver, and it brings it back and it creates glucose out of it. Energy levels begin to fluctuate as the body is now moving from the ready source of carbs and is beginning to process, hey, I need to think about switching over to some other source. Okay. And then 12 to 18 hours, the transition to fat cells, to fat burning. So glucose levels continue to drop. This prompts an increase in fatty acid release from the liver. So as the glucose levels are going down, the body says, hey, I need to get some energy. And so it goes to the liver and begins breaking that down. So the liver starts gluconeogenesis. This is where it's converting non-sugar sources, non-glucose sources, um, is making glucose from non-glucose sources. Okay. Ketone levels are low because we haven't quite gotten to all that or fatty acid oxidation yet. Energy levels may feel like they're dropping, and this is where a lot of people will feel if they're not rested, they will feel that dip because the body's transitioning, and because they're already not rested, that is more pronounced. So that's one of the reasons for making sure that you are doing a good job in resting. Ketones. Ketosis begins at the 18 to 24 hour. So glycogen stores are nearing depletion. And this says to the body, hey, I need more energy. So the body begins producing ketones by burning fat. And that's that fat oxidation, right? So liver is metabolizing fat into ketones. Autophagy starts. Yay! This is that cellular cleanup process that we've been talking about, right? This is where the body goes out and finds damaged, unused, broken cells, broken components, proteins, and so forth, and it recycles them into something new and something that is beneficial to the system. Initial stages of mental clarity may show up here, and this is because the body is now having a steady source of energy. It's burning efficient source of energy. It's producing substances that help the brain to process. And so people are like, oh man, I feel more focused. I feel clear. Right. So that happens there in the 18 to 24 hour. And then once we get past the 18 to 24 hours, we talk about fat adaptation. So significant increases in ketones are going on because the body doesn't have sugar anymore. And so it's now in earnest burning fat to convert those to ketones. Fat oxidation increases and more fatty acids are converted into ketones. Energy levels stabilize because now we have a steady, ready source of energy, whereas blood sugars will fluctuate. This is a more steady, cleaner way of, or cleaner energy source. So the starting the fast, how we get through the fast, and then of course we'll talk here in just a little bit about breaking the fast because that is just as important as the other things that we do. All right. So let's go ahead and let's get to breaking the fast. So all the phases are important. How we prepare for the fast, how we get through the fast, and then of course how we break the fast. So when we talk about breaking the fast, there are a couple of tips that I want to start out with as we get into this discussion, and they are one, you want to monitor blood sugars. I know you're not diabetic, you don't currently have a glucose meter. Get one because it's so important. If we're gonna make changes, we want to see what different activities, foods, so forth do to our body. And one marker of that is what happens to the blood sugar. So get out there, find the least expensive one. It doesn't have to be fancy. If you want a continuous monitor, there's now an over-the-counter version of it that you can get, and you can use that. Portion control. Sometimes we outdo or undo the benefits that we got during the fast because we are not paying attention to portions. Even things that are healthy, let me come over here. Even things that are healthy, if you eat too much, can cause a problem. That's one of my issues with nuts, cashews and almonds and all of that, right? Because in my mind, they're healthy, and so I can like have at it. But that's not true. That is not true. So we want to maintain good portions. Then we want to eat slowly. If we are just shoveling it in, the likelihood of eating more goes up. But if we are mindful, if we are slow, if we are deliberate in our eating, then we don't have that issue. Okay. And then avoid sugary processed foods. Anytime you're eating sugary processed foods, your body gets a spike in blood sugar more readily than other things, right? And so when that happens, then insulin has to come out. And when insulin comes out, then that short circuits the whole process. So avoid sugary, highly processed foods. And then so we're talking about how do we break the fast? Make sure you're hydrated. Um, you can use water, coconut water, unsweetened, herbal teas. All of these will help you in the space of being successful and set you up for a good fast. If not, then we in our minds will sometimes say the fast didn't work. But it's not that the fast didn't work; is that something in the process didn't go the way it should. We didn't prepare well. Didn't remain hydrated. We didn't make sure we're rested. But right, so you get the idea. Make sure that you are setting yourself up for success, and hydration is a big part of that. And of course, protein, 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 protein. When you break the fast, the things that you're breaking the fast with will set you up for success or not success. So if you're eating highly processed foods, high sugary foods, then your body is going to crave high processed or high sugar. And so when you crave high sugar, that now is beginning to undo because you're going to go eat. The appetite is stimulated. You're going to eat things that you would not normally have eaten if you had not eaten the sugar. So the thing that you break the fast with is likely the thing that you're going to be eating in the next 24 hours because that's what's going to be calling you. So the things we want to break the fast with are things that still set us up for metabolic healthy success. Okay. So back to protein, you could have eggs, chicken or turkey breast, tofu, tempeh. Any of that would be reasonable to have. And then healthy fats, right? Avocados, nuts, seeds, and you guys already know my issue with nuts. So I do avocado and I do nuts. So I have those here. In fact, I think a couple of weeks ago when I broke the fast, I had avocado. So you can definitely use that. And remember the fats and the protein. The benefit of those is that they help to keep you fuller longer. They help to blunt the rise in blood sugar that you may see based on the food that you're eating. So very beneficial to have those in our system or have those available to us. And then broths, vegetable broth, bone broth, any of that is good. One of the things that I did, and I think I try to do this each time. Let's see, is I have some broth that I use. It's a mixture, and I'm going to pull this up so we could take a look. Let's see. I believe I have that in there. Well, let me pull you over so you can actually see what I'm looking at. Okay, so here is my Yuka app, and I'm kind of scrolling through and trying to find. Let's see. Okay, hold on a second, guys. It's in here somewhere. Okay, I'll find it and then I'll show you. But anyway, so bone broth, you can use any of those. Right, make sure it's not high. It doesn't have a lot of carbs in it. That was my issue, right? When I did some bone broth. Okay, let's see. Let's get back over here. Okay, so we're using broths, and those will help to. Um, they're good ways to break the fast, right? So broths, and they help to keep you hydrated, and also they will help to keep you refreshed, right? All right. Okay, so that is our review. So considerations. So when breaking the fast, choose foods that help to maintain stable blood sugars. As a matter of fact, I often will try to stay in ketosis longer, even though I'm eating, right? So I'm eating food, but I try to remain in ketosis. You want to focus on low glycemic index foods, lean protein, healthy fats, and you want to make sure that you are remaining hydrated. Remaining hydrated. Okay, and then let's go ahead and let's take a look at my blood sugar. Let's get over here. Let's see. Okay, and so there you'll see that, and I'm having some sinus issues here. There's my blood sugar. So my average blood sugar is 117 with a glucose management indicator of 6.1. So if I were to get an A1C, that's what I would expect it to be, right? So it's a calculation, so it can be off. And then I'm in target 98% of the time, the target being between 70 to 180. If I change this to 90 days, that'll come up there in a minute. And so my glucose management indicator is 6.5, average blood sugar 134, in target 87% of the time, target still being the same, 70 to 180. Okay. And then let's go ahead and take a look at the actual daily numbers. And so we started fasting over here. Remember, we broke the fast and started eating, and so blood sugars went up. And then it's been coming back down, 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 down. And so don't have a full view of that, but that should be updating as we go through the rest of today. Okay. All right. And so, what do you think my ketones are going to be after 29 or so hours? Let's go ahead and let's pop over. Let's do this one. Let's do here. Okay. So now here's my Keto Mojo. And you'll see the app on the screen. Let's go ahead and get that started. And we'll see what that is. Let's go ahead and see if we can get it synced. All right, there we are. So take a guess. Drop it in the chat. All right, so let's see. And oh, what happened? Where did it go? There it is. So 99 was my blood sugar, and then my ketones are 0.5. And so remember, when we talk about ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis, and then above 1.5 considered therapeutic ketosis. So when we talk about ketones and fat burning and insulin resistance and insulin sensitivity, weight loss and all of that, what we're looking for is ketones that are 0.5 or higher, right? So we don't want it in the normal range. We want that higher up. And so that allows us to get all those benefits that we talk about when we talk about fasting and our health. Okay? All right. And then I want to remind you that you have unlimited potential. Sometimes when we think about our health, we think, okay, I've made so many mistakes, I've done so many things, I've got so many complications, But you have the ability right now to chart the destiny of your health. Whatever's happened before has happened. You can't change that. But right now you can make decisions that set you up for success going forward. And so that's my message to you, that you can make changes and the potential is unlimited. We tap into that. We harness that with the triple E formula for success. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate with the podcast that we do. We educate with the show, with the blogs. We empower with the tools that we're learning, all of those mechanisms that we are going through. The insulin is or fasting is one of the most powerful ones that we have because it hits all the pillars. So we educate, we empower, and then we encourage with the community that you are a part of, that you are helping to grow, that you are helping to design. Remember, there are some things that are going to push us off of our eating plan. There are going to be some things that will vie for your attention. Habits, emotions, access, and taste. These are the things that push us and say, hey, do something else. Don't eat like that. Get off of the plan. Fasting doesn't work. It's not working for me. We're not having enough changes. It's not happening fast enough, right? So all of those things, habits, the routines that we've developed, we eat not because we're hungry. We eat because that's what we do. Because we go to the movies, somebody comes over for dinner, or somebody comes over to visit. We go to the coffee shop. We go, whatever we're doing, it's a routine. We eat also because of habits. Because of emotions. Emotions, when they get strong enough, they will push through the decisions that you've made. If you get angry enough, lonely enough, depressed enough, all of that will push you in that direction. And then we eat because of access, because things are around us. And then we eat because of taste. The perfect combination of sugar, fat, and salt. The bliss point that says, I can't just eat one. I'm going to have more. We eat because of all of those. And then our pillars, the three pillars. We decrease insulin, we suppress appetite, and we reduce sugar. That's how we reverse diabetes. When you come, make sure that you are joining the challenges. Don't just let these be things that happen on the show, but you are actually using them. These are tools. These are ways of enhancing, of practicing. Okay? And then call to action. Make sure you tell your story. Let us know you're being successful. Let us know where you're having some struggles, and we'll rally around you. And then invite someone. Invite someone to the space. Let them know that there's a place where they can come and they can have success. As always, I'm excited that I get to spend time with you. And invite someone. Invite someone to the space, right? Say, come on. In fact, get with them and watch the videos. Go through a playlist with them. We've got Mastering Diabetes, How to Reverse Diabetes, How to Fast Successfully. All of those are there with the intention that you get to access them, you get to use them, and you get to be successful in what you do. Right? I want to remind you that we have this week. We have the videos from the vault, right, on Saturday night at 9:00, Sunday morning at 6:00 a.m. We have This Week in Review, and then we'll be back here for Dwain Woode MD Live Monday at 7 p.m. Central. Make sure you join us for all of those, because we're excited that we got a chance to spend time with you, that we are working in a direction to set ourselves up for success. As always, I say, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you, we'll see you at our next show. Bye-bye.